Drop everything and clear those ears. It's time for the Dave and Dave Show.
Greetings from Florida. We're back on the Atlantic coast, thank God, basking in this 40-degree weather. Dave, we're a little frosty up there in Jersey.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Quite nippy, and it's this wind that is just whipping, man. It's been doing it for days. It's not supposed to stop for a couple more, I don't think, but it's cold.
I know your blood can take it. You know, Chicago days, we spent a few days there out by the lake, chipping in late night golf for pizzas. So I know you can take it.
Well, this stuff normally doesn't bother me at all, but this is, yeah, it's a little rough out right now because 40-mile-an-hour wind and it's 20 degrees out. So it's little nippy, little nasty. Everybody complaining. So
little nippy and little nasty. Sounds like my ex. Anyway, let's move forward. And I'm eager to hear about a little kickball. We're going to touch a little college football recap. You got a couple things to say about that, and then we're going to dive into the playoffs. Here we go, brother. Come on, it's a new season. Start.
Yeah, again, our last episode, we did talk about these two semifinal games because we didn't know whether we were going to be back in touch, and and it was because we did a late show last week and we didn't have any other college to talk about because the games were already over. We're going to talk a little bit more about them today because there are just some interesting developments, and they're two very interesting games. I mean, I happen to think that this tournament has been pretty good. I love college football. And I happen to think that it's been good. I especially like the fact that they haven't taken too terribly long in between games. You know, that always used to be the worst thing in college football was your last regular season game, and then you don't play for, usually about a month until your bowl game. With this, they got into it after taking a couple weeks off after their conference championship games, got into this tournament playing pretty much, weekly. Now they're going to have a 10-day spread in between these games and the championship game is on a Monday. That's not terrible. So I've enjoyed it. I've liked it. I think the games have been fun. The games have been good. I think it's kind of interesting the way the top four seeds, the teams with the byes, doesn't mean they were the best teams. It just means, they won the big conferences.
The format.
The top four seeds and the bottom four seeds are gone. It's the middle four that are in there. It's 5, 6, 7, 8 are the four seeds that are left. They played 9, 10, 11, 12 in the first round. They pretty much smashed them in all those games. The team that was supposed to win controlled those games. Then the next round, they beat the top guy. Some of these teams were actually favored in their games, but it was kind of interesting the way the top four and the bottom four dropped out. And now we have our final four, and it's fun. I mean, I think it's great.
Should be a couple of great games. Looking forward to tonight. Good to see the Irish back in the, contention, and a gritty Penn State, and the two, looks like offensive powerhouses on the other side. We got a lot to cheer about. I think they did a good job with this. Especially for the first year of this, and especially like you said, there's no long time lag in between games, and these teams are ready, all four of them.
Yeah, I think they've gotten a little lucky this year, and it's kind of shaken out. They haven't had any games that had like incredibly controversial finishes, like a crappy call to take the game or something. So far, that could still happen. But I think they're getting a little lucky in the fact that they said that what this is going to do is it's going to settle things, that you're not going to have these teams saying, oh, no, in 2024, we had the best team in the country. We didn't get a chance to prove it. This way, they give everybody a chance to prove it. Any of these teams who didn't make this tournament, who think that they had it, they're dreaming. I mean, the Alabama and the Mississippi and those teams, forget it. Ridiculous.
They showed their true colors in the bowl games, and the Big Ten
Alabama
showed what they were all about in these bowl games. So, all right, my man, where you want to go?
Well, I'm sure you get Lane Kiffin saying that, Minnesota should have been because he can't shut his fucking mouth. But anyway, all right, going to look at a little kickball. It's kind of odd right now that the English teams, the Premier League, they're involved in this EFL Cup right now, so they don't have a game scheduled for the weekend. So I'm taking a look at a La Liga game, which is the top league in Spain, on Saturday, 3 o'clock in the afternoon. I'm sure we'll all be watching something. Well, no, we'll only be getting ready. Oh, it's actually perfect timing.
Perfect timing.
Watch a little.
Got to get up a wee early.
The NFL.
Perfect timing. It's perfect.
No, 3 o'clock in the afternoon. Come on, everybody's up.
It's early for some of us.
We're looking for something to watch. So how about a soccer game? Anyway, Saturday, 3 o'clock, La Liga. It is Sevilla at home against Valencia. Sevilla used to be traditionally at the top of the table, maybe not winning the championship or anything, but I think they finished fourth in the league like 4 years in a row or something, and not that long ago. They were in the Champions League a number of times, and they always used to sort of overachieve in those international club competition. But lately, they have been on the schneid. I think they finished 12th in the league last year. Right now, I think they're sitting at about 14th. So they've really dropped into the bottom half of the league table. Valencia is always at the bottom if they're not going down into the second division. But I just happened to have a chance to watch them a couple times recently, and they're playing pretty well. They had a couple of ties in La Liga, and then they had a close loss to a good team, and then they just had one of these cup games the other day where they did play a team from the second division, but they handled them. They did what they were supposed to do, and a lot of people were thinking they were going to lose that game outright because they were on the road. But anyway, they looked good, and I just think that Sevilla is struggling now, and Valencia is playing a little bit better ball, and I'm looking at a draw, plus 230 in the game between Sevilla and Valencia on Saturday afternoon. Plus 230 draw.
Going for the tie, the draw. Yeah. Between the Spaniards.
I mean, Valencia hasn't won a game on the road this year, so the best you can hope for is probably a tie. They have 0 wins on the road.
All right, good logic. We already got our picks in for college, but just I know you got a couple things to say. I'll just say that I got Penn State, the dog. It's 1.5 now. I got it at 2. But I still like it at 1.5, and I'm staying with the Big Ten, as is the consensus. Ohio State -6. You have something to add to that, my friend?
I mean, do you have anything as far as any other kind of information that we didn't talk about already? I mean, I'm just getting some general perceptions about this game. This game's starting to really scare me.
I don't blame you. I mean, Texas is scary. I think
I'm talking about tonight's game, Penn State Notre Dame tonight.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Notre Dame. I think if they control the line of scrimmage, which Penn State's been doing, they've just been playing better football. Of course, Notre Dame is scary. They come out, they punch you right in the mouth. But I'm sticking with the Nittany Lions. I don't have any extra information, and if you're a scad, I understand.
Yeah, but, just a little apprehensive about this one because what I'm kind of seeing is that the public is on Notre Dame, and the public is having an unbelievable year, especially in the NFL. We've talked about it ad nauseum, but we're going to probably continue to talk about it. We're going to continue to talk about it looking at the very next college game, but even in this game's case, what it appears to me is that you're getting more bets on Notre Dame, but you're getting more money on Penn State. So these books who are taking it on the chin. I mean, I sent that story over to you the other day that FanDuel declared an unexpected $370 million shortfall in revenue because of pro football season. I mean, all these popular choices are coming in, including the very last weekend of the season where they pretty much all steamrolled in except for a couple, and the very last game of the season where every single person who bet that game had Detroit, except for a couple people I know. Anyway, I don't
fault you for that.
But this is a situation where in the modern bookmaking where, you do have this broad-based kind of thing, and it's not just some, a local bookie with 20 or 30 customers. We're talking about hundreds of thousands of customers for these big books. They look for a situation like this where they can make a lot of their customers happy by being on the right side, and they're the $100 bettors. But the big money is on the other side, and that's what I'm a little bit scared of here. That it looks like the money might be on Penn State. We're siding with Penn State for a lot of damn good reasons. I'm also a little apprehensive about Penn State just because they seem to have that problem with the big game. They've had a couple of these playoff games, but this is not the same animal as playing in a national semifinal against Notre Dame. I mean, that is a big game. This is a big game. So I'm a little apprehensive, but I'm still on Penn State. And we go with Penn State. One thing that they have in their corner here, and the thing that seems to burn them when they play Ohio State and Michigan in the Big Ten, is that they give up big plays. Notre Dame doesn't hit a lot of big plays. I know everybody's seen like the kid had the 98-yard run and all this shit. But they hit fewer big plays than any other team that was in this tournament. Notre Dame is more of a grinded out kind of team. I think that plays to Penn State's strength is they're willing to, okay, maybe you get a couple first downs, but then we make a play and we stop you. That the Penn State's weakness in the big games has been the big play. Notre Dame doesn't hit a lot of them. And I'm hoping they don't tonight. So anyway, we're both hanging in there with Penn State, but with some reservations. Yeah, it's a pick, but it's far from a 42-star play.
No 42-star system, Morty.
No 42-star system on this.
And which way are you going? I'm sticking with Ohio State, just to recap before we get to the NFL.
We talked about it last week.
They're going to get out to a stronger start. And if Texas, is not a team that comes from behind, and I'm just afraid of their second half. They play second half football terrible this year. Sarkisian, too full of himself. He's got a nice hairdo, but I think the Big Ten boys, punch these guys in the mouth. The first game's going to be a tough one. Second game, I like Ohio State to roll. Unfortunately, the rest of the world does.
The whole world does, and that's got me. I'm going to do something with Texas on this game. Now, I know that last week when we talked about it, I chickened out. I said I'll take under because I was afraid.
Yes, you did.
Just say, okay, looks like there's only one answer to this game, and that's Ohio State. I'm a big believer in trying to analyze public opinion when it comes to sports gambling. I just looked at the CBS Sports Line guys. They got 8 guys who picked the games against the spread. You got 8 guys on Ohio State. I mean, in the old days, I would have said I'm betting the farm on Texas, but these days, because they have had these debacles where the bookies, they must be printing money. But that's what it looks like here. There's only one side to take here. The only thing I can say is I think people are absolutely blown away now by maybe not necessarily the last game, but the last 2 games for Ohio State. But you don't have to go back very far to that Michigan game. They play like they did against Michigan, then Texas is definitely going to have a shot, not only to cover, but to win this game. So let's not get too carried away with, Ohio State being so wonderful.
Well, not that. I just don't think Texas is all that. And they showed that, in the last 2 or 3 games. Well, but 6 points is a lot of points. I agree with you. It's going to be a tough game. I'm looking forward to it. This is a great semifinal.
Well, here's another thing. With this massive amount of people picking Ohio State, why hasn't that line gone to a touchdown?
That's
why
true.
hasn't that gone up to 7? It would be another. That would be another a red light of all red lights in the old, not so much now. But probably do a little something with Texas and still maybe do a little something with the under, but very difficult.
Okay, well, let's jump over to the NFL. I know we got 6 games, and we're going to go across each one. David, we got Saturday, Chargers, Texans, both the battle of the Midwest, Baltimore and Pittsburgh. You want to start us off there, buddy, in our 2025 Dave and Dave playoff picks.
Yeah, the first game scares the hell out of me because here's another game that there's only one side that you can take here. I mean, I'm not putting any money on Houston. I'm sorry. Crappy division that they win by default, and the Chargers were one of my teams before the season started that I thought were going to overachieve. They did. I think they have a lot of things going for them. One thing that I'm looking, well, two things that I'm looking at with regards to all the playoff teams is defense, points per game. Yards don't matter. Yards mean nothing. Okay, it's points per game. If you look at the points per game, there aren't any 85 Bears or 86 Giants in pro football these days. Those days are gone. Okay, but when you look at the defensive stats for 2024. The top 9 teams points against. Now, I mean, this is like a self-fulfilling sort of statistic. I mean, it's like, right, you don't give up points and you score points, you're going to win games and you're going to be in the playoffs. The top 9 teams points against are in the playoffs. And then you got to jump over one team and go to the Buffalo. The Bills are in 11th. Then a few of these guys are stragglers. But the bottom 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 teams in the league, all of them are out of the playoffs. Okay. So obviously it's almost self-explanatory. Give up a lot of points, you lose games, shut people down, you win games. But defense still matters, even though teams don't seem to dominate on that side of the ball. The other thing is turnovers. So almost the same situation here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Top 8 teams in turnover margin in the league are all in the playoffs. Bottom 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 teams all out of the playoffs. Turnover margin and points against. Those combinations. You got a couple teams in here that are doing kind of shaky on both of those. Like they're not right at the top. But your Chargers are number 1 in defense points against. I just don't see this game being anything other than Chargers. I'm not gonna dive into it because the whole world is on the Chargers because it makes sense. But here's one where I think maybe we all get off to a good start. First game, Chargers -3 against you.
Yeah, I'm with you, buddy. I mean, Herbert, he's been awesome since week 8. I think it's 15 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. J.K. Dobbs back in the backfield. But you're right. It's a well-coached team. They don't make many mistakes. And that really stands out defensively, especially in, critical situations. They're really prepared. It's not going to be a real surprise to me if they win and cover against a team that started 5-1 and, C.J. Stroud has come back down to earth with a thud, but his whole supporting cast is really, imploded around him.
Yeah, you beat Tennessee when you didn't even need to win it because you already had the division.
Yeah.
Tennessee.
All right, so we're both on board -2.5 Chargers.
Next game?
Yeah, I'll swing into the next game. We've been here before. We've been burned by the Baltimore Ravens before, right? You and me, I know. I hesitate to say it, but this team feels a little bit different. Jackson's playing, all-time great level. He's got a future Hall of Famer that he can hand the ball back to. But to your point, the biggest restoration of confidence, I think, in the Ravens is the D. I got a note here from 11 to 17 weeks. They only gave up about 170 yards pass, and their defense was ranked second. I just think their defense is totally different. You can see the attitude, and the attitude with Jackson. He looks a little pissed off now when things don't go right, pissed off at other players. He's got an attitude, a fighter's attitude. It's a different team, looks a little bit better. It's coming down a little bit. I'll lay the 8.5. Where are you going?
I got it at 9.5, and I'm going to lay that.
Okay, and I will lay that.
Not crazy 10. About it. Obviously, you don't see me taking too many 9.5 point favorites in the playoffs. I don't even know if this is as much an endorsement of Baltimore as it is. I think Pittsburgh was showing their true colors at the end of the year. I really do. I thought that they would like to get a win under their belt coming into the playoffs. They were playing a Cincinnati team that really hasn't big enough, no defense. I mean, the Bengals are crap. But they couldn't do it. They couldn't beat them. Where are the Bengals on the list for points against? I know they're not good. They're down there around. Let's see if they're down.
They got hot at the end.
Mid-20s. Yeah, a little better. And one of the games that helped them statistically was Pittsburgh because they didn't give up much in that game. And Russell Wilson looked scared. Baltimore at home with being able to control the ball the way they do. I mean, the addition of Derrick Henry to that team was already a pretty scary offense. And now with that guy, he's a horse. Again, don't like laying points. Don't like laying points in the playoffs. But Pittsburgh's going really in the wrong direction.
You know it. And Russell Wilson has played down the stretch like what? He probably won't be the Steelers quarterback next year.
He might not even be the Steelers quarterback at the end of this game.
Pittsburgh is done. They have the worst first down rating of the playoff teams. But I still think this is Baltimore's chance to roll. All right, let's roll over to the Buffalo Bills, Denver Broncos. Why don't you start us off, brother?
Well, this one's tough. I mean, the weather's not going to be quite as nasty as maybe Buffalo would like, although, in the old days, Denver was always a good, crappy weather team. You had to be. You never know when you're going to get a blizzard in Denver. John Elway was a good, bad weather quarterback, even though he was a California kid. The guy, I just like the way Denver's playing. A little disappointing in that game against the Bengals, where it was a must game, kind of a must game for them. And they were playing the backups last week for the Chiefs, but they took care of business. And they've learned different ways to move the ball. I wish their defense was playing a little tougher because this Buffalo offense is a little scary. But I'm going to take 8.5 points with a team that is a legitimate playoff team that made a decision to go with a rookie quarterback. And the guys ended up playing pretty well. I think that there's no way I lay 8.5 points with Buffalo against anybody with that defense. Their defense is not good. That's not a people making them a favorite to win the Super Bowl or whatever. You do that at your peril because that defense is crap. So I'm taking Denver plus 8.5 against the Bills.
I concur, Dr. Dave. Regardless of what happens, we're getting there. Regardless of what happens with the playoffs, the Broncos, this has been a massive success. It just shows that Sean Payton has still got it. He's still one of the best. Where I don't agree with you is that the Broncos defense, I think they dominated for much of the season. And when they
looked great, but
yeah, I agree. I know. They have to. It's going to be a shootout. They have to score points in this game. Bo Nix, rookie, there's going to be a lot of pressure on him, but I think it's better that he's on the road. I think him and Peyton, really got it going on. And that defense is so scary with Buffalo. Yeah, they're super explosive. They're super tough at home, but I don't trust this Bills D.
Bad.
They're giving out, what is it, like over 300 yards passing.
They've had a couple of 40-point games.
From week 14 to 17. Yeah, 11 TDs, three interceptions. So there you go. Yeah. We're both on board there, and they're giving up a lot on the ground, almost 5 yards per carry. So we think the Buffalo defense is suspect. Denver's got to score some points, but we'll take them. We'll take those.
Put a scare into. Do it up.
I was scared.
All right.
Now we're going into a game that is, to me, the scariest for me, and that is the Green Bay traveling to Philly. I'm taking the 4.5. If you're to look at Green Bay, you're looking at a team that it's still the youngest team in the NFL. It explains some of the sloppiness. Some of LaFleur's decisions, kind of made things a little bit worse. Love is dinged up. But one thing that I like about, two teams that are in the playoffs right now, Green Bay, Baltimore, and then later I'm going to talk about the Rams. They've played the toughest schedule, those three teams. That doesn't say that they're going to win or anything like that, but they're facing good offenses and good defenses. Philly, yes, they had 3 games against top-tier teams, and they won all 3 in that stretch. But other than that, they've been playing bottom feeders. I think Green Bay is going to look to challenge Hurts to beat him in the air, and they're going to have a hell of a test there on at the line. They control that line of scrimmage in the running game, especially in the first half. I think they got a chance to win, but a couple of big numbers, 3 and 4, 4.5. I'm going to take the Pack.
I guess we don't have any pizzas going yet. I don't think we're going to have any. Looking at the last two games here, I think we're going to be on the same side of every game. I'm going to say we're going to go 6-0. 6-0, Davo. All right. Packers plus 4.5 against Philly. Now, I know they're getting all excited today in Philly. I already saw it today on the news because it appears that Hurts is definitely going to play. Whereas our Packers quarterback is a little more uncertain than people were thinking.
Right.
That does scare me. But
no, I think Love is going to be fine.
As a good, hard-fought game. They played week 1, right? Wasn't that the game that got played?
Yes.
Like crazy?
Week 1 in Brazil.
Yeah.
Brazil.
Right. All right.
Nada pasa
put
in
the back
Brazil.
on that one and lost. And go
you can put a line through that. But you're right.
back.
Green Bay's played everybody tough, and a lot of tough teams. Had to play the Vikings twice. Had to play Detroit twice.
Yep. The division's really good.
Yes.
Division's really good. Even the Bears are not one of the worst teams.
No,
in the league. I don't think they are. I think there's another.
I think they're middle of the pack.
I could easily say are worse than the Bears. One of the reasons why the Bears had such a terrible record is look at the teams that they had to play twice. They had to play the Vikings twice, the Lions twice, and the Packers
point
twice.
exactly.
That's rough.
Very, very true. My point exactly. That was a tough smash mouth division. It was a struggle, a lot of injuries, dinging each other up. But at the end, it's a tougher schedule. I believe that, they're going to be around at the end of the game, and we'll take those points.
Yeah, I just hope Love is okay because I think he's important. I know that when the backup came in, they played pretty well, and we even have a good friend of ours was out in Hawaii, big Packers fan, who when I said, "Oh, Love's coming back," he was like, "I wish he wouldn't." But anyway, he is their guy. He is their man, and let's see a little balance. I mean, kind of an interesting game because these teams are kind of similar to me. They run.
I agree. There's a lot of similarities, with the exception of the
mobile quarterback, but not running around like a Jackson or something. But they are mobile. They both hit big plays. They can both run the ball.
Line should be a lot lower, in my opinion. But you're right. All this press that hurts us
only
back.
4.5. One of the things one of the reasons I'm looking at Green Bay is because it's only 4.5. If Philly was so great, they'd be bigger, right?
Supposed to be the Super Bowl contender,
like Pittsburgh and Buffalo would be given like more than a touchdown. Anyway,
and
you get
Green
a lot
Bay
of
Road Warriors.
All right, I'm with you on that. I'm with you on Green Bay. So we were together on all 4, and even on the one game today that I'm sort of going to the other side against all logic. I'm not betting a pizza on Texas. I'll bet you half a slice.
I'll bet you a nice cold beer.
All right, just one beer.
All right. Where are we going next? We're heading.
We're going down. We're
Florida.
going down south.
There you go.
Down to your neck of the woods.
Hey,
going for those division champion Tampa Bay Buccaneers against the Washington Redskins. Now, Tampa Bay is actually, when I was talking about those two, very broad categories, but they're very important to have a successful team. They are what are they? They're not the worst team points against. They are clearly the worst team in turnover margin because Tampa Bay is the only team in the playoffs that has a negative turnover margin. And that's a little scary. We do know that Baker likes to play, fast and loose sometimes, but that makes him fun to watch. And that's what makes that team, pretty explosive is he does throw some crazy balls. But anyway, I think they found a good running back. They have somebody who's pretty reliable. I think they are going to score some points. The worst defense in the playoffs points against is actually the team they're playing against, and that's Washington,
that's right.
who last year was historically bad. I know they're a lot better this year. I know they are much, much better than they were last year. But hey, they haven't turned it completely around. They're still in the middle of the pack in the league, even a little bit below the middle of the pack when it comes to points allowed per game. They also are not terribly great in the turnover margin. They're the second worst team in turnover margin in the playoffs with only a +1. So the two negatives for Tampa, these broad categories, they're playing the team that's down there with them, playoff team that's down there with them, and they're at home. And now that game against New Orleans scares the hell out of me.
Hey,
they're a 2-touchdown favorite, and they were losing that game in the middle of the fourth quarter to a team playing with a 10th string quarterback, Spencer Rattler. That scares the hell out of me. But I like him at home. I like Baker. I like the fact that we're talking about a guy with a chip on his shoulder, a mile wide, going to make some plays against a defense that will give up big plays. And you've also got the remember the end of that Dallas game several weeks ago where it was like that game wouldn't end because both teams just kept hitting huge plays. I think Tampa's going to get a couple of those. And I think you might see a little bit of rookie quarterback in his first playoff game, maybe not having as much success as he did during the regular season. So that's Tampa Bay -3. You got to take a favorite too. So Tampa Bay -3. Actually, I've got 3 out of 5 favorites right now. Tampa Bay -3 over Washington.
It's been a fascinating season for the Tampa Bay Bucks. They've had some huge wins. Chargers, Eagles, Lions, and some ugly losses.
Right.
Yes. your Falcons twice, Cowboys, Niners, and the Saints, the rolling the dice.
Weird season.
I just think Todd Bowles are going to have them ready at least for this playoff game.
Well, there's another huge negative for me.
Yeah, well,
I'm sorry to contradict you, but
no,
personal
I just think he will be a presence in this. What concerns me most is an overly aggressive Baker Mayfield. If that's the only way they stand in the way of giving this away. And I think Washington, I think discipline-wise, the most penalized team as well in the playoffs. Their schedule been about even. I'll take Tampa Bay at home. All right, let's bring it to our...
Bring it home.
Bring it home, baby. All right.
5-minute warning.
5-minute warning. I only got 2 minutes. That's all I need.
This one,
During the regular season, the Rams faced 5 of the 13 other teams in the playoffs. Okay, they went 2-3. They beat the Bills and the Vikings, and they lost close games to the Lions and Packers. By no means does the Rams' strength of schedule mean they're the best team in the playoffs or they have an advantage over the rest. But it does suggest that the Rams might be a little bit better prepared for a challenge than these other teams. And the Vikings are going in another direction. You could see Sam Darnold panic in the red zone. This team can lose 2 in a row. They had everything on the line, everything to go for. They had their bye and the crown in their lap, and they cashed it in. They couldn't get it done on the road. And I don't think they're going to get it done this time. So the line, we're only getting 1 but I'm taking the Rams. It's one of my top picks.
I mean, I get the feeling that a lot of people picking the Rams is like a trendy pick for this week and everything. But then when I look at the numbers and like DraftKings and everything, it's pretty solid Minnesota. So, I think people look at the, 14-3 and they have a hard time getting past that. And they're taking that team, especially with a tiny, tiny number attached to it. I'm Rams. And I'm wondering, I can't look into their souls and look into their minds and see whether they're shaken or not. But that game, I do have to say that, well, it was the entire game though. It was because I told you the other day I'm watching a replay of that game. It's 10-9 in the middle of the third quarter. It's 10-9. They're in the game. Not only are they in the game, something goes their way, they win it. But it did not. Nothing went their way, and they ended up getting blown out. And it was a little embarrassing.
Yeah. Against a suspect Detroit D, right?
Couldn't get anything done on offense. They had the ball down there inside the 5-yard line. I don't know how many times. Inside the 10-yard line a few times for sure. Embarrassing. The play selection, not being able to run the ball in important situations, and the fact that stunting these linebackers and coming up through the gaps around the center, it just seemed to totally blow up Minnesota's defense. So any team can do that. I mean, just look at the film of that game. The Rams are going to be able to do that. Yeah. And are you going to be able to respond to that? Is that Minnesota must be practicing on that all week long because they didn't handle it at all.
And if they can't handle that, are they going to handle playoff football? I think Sean McVay, yes. He's been there. He's been in the Super Bowl. Yeah, I like the Rams to cap off our and this is the first time we've, and we don't pre-prepare. We don't know who each other is going to pick.
We told each other we weren't going to talk about them so that we could surprise each other. We surprised each other by agreeing on everything.
That's the truth.
All right,
Dave Marino. Playoff picks are in.
Exciting.
Our first year in the podcast. Let's knock them off. 6-0, baby. Let's do it.
6-0. We got some great college games starting tonight, and then an interesting weekend. I'm not totally crazy about the way they spread it out all the way to Monday night, but hey, Los Angeles might need to get the air circulating a little bit there. So maybe it's better.
Yeah. God bless the people there.
For the game on
and
Monday
a little
night.
Side note for our followers, Jersey Coast Dave, keep an eye on his college hoops. He's warming up, and we're warming up. We're looking forward to that here.
I don't know how we're going to talk about him in advance because that's kind of hard to do. We can look at situations and try to, hypothetically come up with some lines and everything, but it's sort of hard to do unless we start
get it done
every day, which would be fun.
Yeah,
anyway.
We'll get it done.
All right, my man. We're
all right, my man. Dave with the playoffs.
All right, 6-0 on the wild card round. All right,
picking winners. Love you, buddy.
Later.
All right.